What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick. I'm the host, Devin. Sherdog.com is the website, and we are back off of I want to say an off weekend of fights. We had PFL, their championship fights this past weekend. Hope all of you guys had a good holiday. If you are in the United States of America and celebrating Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, top tier holiday, second best in my opinion. Number one is going to be Christmas for me. It's the only holiday that I personally want to or will decorate for. It comes with all of the Christmas spirit, plus all the good food from Thanksgiving if you live in my household. But Thanksgiving slides in right at number two. Thanksgiving's an awesome holiday, and I hope all of you guys enjoyed it. Hope all of you guys were safe. Again, decent weekend of fights this week on Black Friday, really early in the morning. I live on the West Coast now. Really early in the morning card. So I actually only caught the main card. We're going to talk about a couple of those fights, and then we're going to look ahead into UFC 310. Alexandre Pantoja taking on Kai Asakura. Some really good fights on that card, and we'll just dive straight into it. We're going to start with the co-main event. Dakota Ditcheva kind of absolutely wrecks Taila Santos in a one-sided beatdown that lasted about 1.5 rounds. Dakota Ditcheva continues to prove that she is not just a Barbie, like many of her haters say, but she is also a fighter, and a pretty damn good one. We all knew she was a great kickboxer, but she's getting pretty freaking good at MMA. She is a marauder. She is undefeated, and she is continuously marauding. This was her best win by far, and I'll just say it. Taila Santos fought a really bad fight, but is that Dakota Ditcheva's fault or is that her own fault? I'm going to say a little bit of both. Excuse me. Ditcheva, she should only be allowed to fight with elbows, by the way. Like, if I'm her and I'm in her camp, I'm not taking fights unless I can elbow people in the face, and for someone like her that could potentially have another career outside of MMA after MMA, maybe it is best for her to not be getting elbowed in the face. Sorry, I'm adjusting the height of my chair. This is what happens when you take a week off. Shit goes crazy. Dakota should not take fights without elbows anymore, though. Like the finishing sequence where she landed that elbow, boom, up over the top, and then finished Santos to the body. There were so many situations where Santos would get like the rear waist cinch and get Dakota Ditcheva to the cage, but like Santos's wrestling more than anything was really exposed in this fight, where her wrestling below the waist is just non-existent. And for Dakota Ditcheva, like, this is just going to help her so. If Dakota Ditcheva was in a weight class like men's 155, someone with her skills, they may not touch the top 25. There's some amazing kickboxers in that division, but you've got guys like Dustin Poirier, who is a high level Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt at men's 155, and like people and fans call him a bad wrestler because the best wrestlers ever still can expose him. But Dakota Ditcheva is not going to have that problem at women's flyweight at fucking all. Santos, just like so much WMMA wrestling and grappling, takes place above the waist, and she was going for double underhooks and trying to get trip takedowns and drag downs. But like Santos has got pretty good BJJ, but she's not a wrestler. I saw her maybe go to one single, but like, yeah, it's bad when it's bad when there's fans watching that like know more wrestling than the fighter in the cage. Because I'm like, man, the single leg is there. Like, just take it. You got her against the cage. Like, chain some wrestling together. Like, you are dying on this like weird body lock trip takedown that you're never gonna get. And that's just not what cage wrestling should be. cage wrestling should be you going from low single to high single, trying to disrupt the balance and really make things happen. Not just let your opponent fight for the underhooks, reverse you against the cage, and then beat the shit out of you. Dakota Ditcheva looks strong in there because Taila Santos was someone that like kind of, out-muscled Valentina Shevchenko. If you're only listening to this, I'm doing air quotes. She had back control for a round. Look, back control is different in MMA too. Like if Taila Santos would have taken Dakota Ditcheva's back in this fight and gotten the same positions that she got against Shevchenko, I would assume for her to be able to ride out rounds too. I mean, at this level in MMA, if someone takes your back and they're adamant about being there, like you're just best off waiting for the round to expire. Ask Michael Chandler about that. But Ditcheva's going to be able to expose so many opponents. Her range is incredible. Her ability, her finishing ability. I love a body shot finish, but a body shot finish from a woman that is, not even 30 years old. Her counter punching is great. She's good on the front foot, good on the back foot. If you get hurt, if she hurts you and you shell up, she's going to the body. She's a absolute finisher. Is she the best women's, flyweight in the world? No. I mean, you could argue it, and I'm sure she thinks she is, and I'm sure her whole team thinks she is, and everyone around her thinks she is and tells her she is, and they should at this point. But her catalog and her record, you can go to Sherdog.com and look at her record outside of Taila Santos. It's a lot of nobody. But one good win, when you win like this, does a lot for you, especially in this division. She warded off all of the takedowns, even got top position against Santos and disengaged, just bullied Santos in there. Santos also did look like, in a weird way, like she's had bigger moments in her career, but she looked a little more flummoxed and kind of confused and freaked out in this fight than I've really ever seen her. Is she on the decline? She is a little bit older. She has been fighting for a while. In divisions like this, it's kind of, you see people climb to the top and then you see them fall hard. Look at Alexa Grasso. In one fight against Shevchenko, she was looking like a world beater. And then the next fight, in their third fight, she looked like she did not even belong standing. When Alexa Grasso fought Valentina Shevchenko in their third fight, she was so out of place. It looked like that she shouldn't even been parking valet cars at the event. Like, that's how far removed Grasso looked against Shevchenko in that third fight. And for Ditcheva, she should totally just petition to fight in their like super fight league that PFL has, I guess. Their league thing is really confusing for someone even in my position to follow. There's just way too much going around. They want to hand out too many belts. But Dakota Ditcheva is like the most legit fighter they have in their organization. And when I say, I know they have Francis Ngannou, but like the PFL is going to be really lucky if they squeeze another fight out of Ngannou. They could squeeze 5 more out of Ditcheva if they play their cards right. If I was Ditcheva, I would not be entering the tournament again. Number one, there's no reason for you at this level to be firing through these, 4 fights in a year to win $1 million. Your next 2 fights could probably earn you $850,000. You probably earn almost $1 million, and if you have good management, she seems she does. They may be able to earn you $1 million in 2 PFL championship fights. So she should just petition for that. Don't do anything stupid. Don't be going up to like 145 to try to fight Larissa Pacheco. Don't do anything weird or dumb. Crush another 3 or 4 fighters. Stay in the PFL for another like year and a half. Let your contract expire, and then see if you can figure out how to get to the UFC. If you can do the Kayla Harrison route, that's lucrative, and she's way younger, doing it way younger and at a way more attainable weight class. And what's really awesome for Dakota Ditcheva too is like she could just go to the UFC in a year or 2 years, when say she goes to the UFC when she's 28 or 29. which is still in some years. She could just go right into women's bantamweight if the UFC doesn't dissolve that division, or just wait out Valentina Shevchenko. I'm not saying she needs to wait her out because she can't beat her in a fight. She might beat Shevchenko in a fight if they were to fight tomorrow. She might. But when I say wait her out, like, you wait 2 more years, Shevchenko's going to be close to 40. Like, you could slide right into women's 125 and you know, yeah, you still have the Macy Barbers and stuff like that, but I think she'd do pretty damn good in those fights. Yeah, Dakota Ditcheva is just she's become phenomenal. She's very, very good. And her ability to, you know, thwart the takedowns and keep the fight on the feet and even get top position over Santos and then disengage, and then just kind of tear her up and punish her on the feet. Her shot selection is just so incredible. Her pull counters are so good. Her straights down the pike are good. Her elbows are good. Her kicks are good. Her leg kicks, body kicks. I mean, she just one of the better WMMA strikers that's just out there right now. And, you know, in a perfect world, I'd love to see her come to the UFC and just like start, you know, prospecting her way up through the rankings. Like, she were to come into the UFC, throw her in there with someone like Wang Kong, who we saw just, you know, had a bunch of hype behind her and got killed in her second fight. Just like let her work through. But for her, just, you know, Chael Sonnen said it the best, man. You take the easiest fight for the most amount of money, and that's what she's going to be able to do in the PFL. So great for Dakota Ditcheva. She looks phenomenal, and I was never a believer until this weekend, and I'm not on the fence anymore. I'm a believer in Dakota Ditcheva. I'm a fan of her striking. She's an incredible fighter, and I'm pretty excited to see what she does in the future. All right, moving on to the main event of the PFL card. This was contested at men's featherweight for the men's featherweight championship. Both of these dudes ran through their brackets for this tournament thing. Like, this season, just call it a Grand Prix. Like, so many people will like break their necks to be trying to watch us if you just called it a Grand Prix, which is kind of what it is. But we had Timur Khizriev taking on Brendan Loughnane. If you're listening to the show, you know who Brendan Loughnane is. You know, his whole thing with the Contender Series, shooting the takedown, you know, against Bill Algeo, and then Dana White being like, "Nah, we don't want you." And then, yeah, the whole thing was kind of dumb, but he kind of got beat up pretty bad here by Timur Khizriev, and like the PFL has just kind of become like the 2 or 3.0 version of like M1 Global. They just got all badass Russian champions, like dudes. The PFL's roster right now is like 70% Dagestani, but like 100% just badass killer. They're going to have such a hard time promoting these dudes because they don't speak any English. And this is clearly like an American organization, but like PFL is here to put on fights like this. That's like their thing. Yeah, Brendan Loughnane just like kind of couldn't do anything in this fight. And he was an underdog going in, and like as the fight went on, like he just became like on the live odds, just increasing major underdog. By the time the fight ended, he was like Khizriev was like a minus 1,400 favorite, or even more, like some outrageous number. I scored the fight 50-45. I think it was round 4 that 2 of the judges gave to Loughnane, but it was one of those things where like Loughnane had been getting beat up for 3 rounds straight so badly, not terribly, not like, you know, Glover versus Anthony Smith beat up where he's picking his teeth up and shit, but like he's getting outclassed for 3 rounds straight. And then like he did a little bit better in the 4th round, but like he still lost it. I mean, go to MMA Decisions or go to Sherdog's Twitter, and they were, you know, putting out the live scoring, and I think all 3 of them that scored, I didn't score, but I'm pretty sure all 3 of the dudes that scored for Sherdog scored this at 50-45. And it was just like Brendan Loughnane did a little better. Like he didn't lose so badly. So I think they're like, it was closer, so we'll give it to him. But like, no, that's not how the fight went down. Khizriev's speed, his takedowns. What I loved from Khizriev in this fight is his ability to like just beat Loughnane everywhere. something happened to Loughnane's like right leg too. I think he like must have blew out one of his CLs. They didn't even give him an interview after, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, he was your champion. He's one of your bigger names in the organization. Like, throw homie an interview after he just got beat up pretty bad. Like, do the interview, blah, 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 and then present the check. Like, just give him like a 40 seconds, 45 seconds on the mic real quick, 3/4 of a minute, whatever. Hey, Brennan, great job on the fight. Let him be like, I'll be back. And then, hey, I saw you. Is your leg okay? Cool. Leave it that, whatever, but give him something. Like, he's a former champ for your organization, just like last year. Like, he should have got something. Just a little mic time. But they, they're like the Saudi prince, whoever, I can't recall the gentleman's name. I'm going to call him a gentleman. He's probably a nice guy. Presented the $1 million check, and they kind of just like rushed the loser out of there real quickly. Same with Impa, even though Impa got, we'll talk about that in a quick second. He got fucked up. He's another former champion and a guy you've been boosting up. It's like, hey, PFL, real quick, just because your former champion doesn't win again doesn't mean that they're just like dead forever. We got Chris Weidman fighting on UFC 310 coming up, and like, people know who he is. Anyway, Khizriev did everything well in this fight. Like, his striking was good. Yeah, he ate a couple jabs, but his jab was fast. He was just faster than Brendan Loughnane. And Brendan Loughnane's a pretty speedy guy with good footwork, but he just got beat everywhere. Khizriev's uppercut was firing. He rocked Loughnane in the second round really bad, and he had Loughnane like blinking really fast and kind of having to stagger back. I don't think he realized how hurt Brendan Loughnane was in that moment. But for these guys, like the Chris Wades and the Bubba Jenkins, like, those dudes are out of the PFL. Those dudes have made their money, kind of luckily, because this new Dagestani this new Dagestani wave is not just taking over the UFC, it's taking over the PFL. And they've got really, really, really good guys on there. And unfortunately for, Loughnane had kind of an easier time up when he won his $1 million compared to what the roster is looking like now. Was it last year that Jesus Pinedo won the $1 million, or was it the year before that? I'm getting them confused, because I know Pinedo also knocked out Loughnane. But even for guys like Jesus Pinedo, like, PFL ain't as easy as it used to be. And I think it's going to be like this until they expire, which could be in a week or could be in 20 years. Khizriev's low, like millimeter off the ground takedown in the fifth round, just to like really seal the deal. Really good fight IQ. Like, his wrestling is so good. His control game is so good. His takedown variety is so good. His striking is good. He's speedy. He really reminds me of like Umar Nurmagomedov, but like maybe not as good of a kicker, but like just as good of a boxer. Good takedowns. Kind of did remind me of like the Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov fight, where like, yeah, one dude's good, but the other dude just showed you his level, and maybe he hasn't fought the same names or doesn't have the same hype, but like, Timur Khizriev, he's freaking good, man. That uppercut he throws is so fast. And Timur Khizriev could potentially be one of those dudes that like never gets to the UFC and fights in the PFL for 7-8 more years and then just goes. He's got a little bit of defensive issues, and he really relies on his speed. But like, he's going to be fine doing that for like 5 more years in the PFL. He looked really, really good. 145 in general, just worldwide, is a division of killers. And he's good, man. I'm excited to see what he does in the future. I'm excited to see what they can do for him. For a guy like him with, MMA fans, probably not even, I would say probably 40% of MMA fans know who Timur Khizriev is. So he should totally join the tournament next year and just try to clean shop again. He had a hard run there too. Like, he fought really good dudes on his, through the bracket up to Brendan Loughnane. And I think he kind of had the easier road there than Loughnane, but man, he made all these fights look pretty easy. And just wrapping up the rest of the PFL card, I did not catch the early fights on the card. unfortunately. I did catch the whole entire main card, all the championship fights. Goltsov gets taken down by Popov and hits him with that. He's a huge dude, by the way, to hit that triangle off his back. Twice this year at men's heavyweight, across multiple organizations, have we seen dudes get dubs off their back against, like Goltsov wasn't even favored. Popov was favored to win this fight, which I thought he was. Popov was undefeated, but he's like a small heavyweight that pretty good, but not great. The PFL posted something up to this fight like, hey, John Jones, this guy's an undefeated heavyweight. Well, not anymore. Goltsov hit him with a really slick triangle from the back, choked him out pretty quick in the first round. All of these fights besides the main event went, did not go to decision, did not go the distance, all instant finishes. Brent Primus at 39, man, made his way all the way up, finishing good dudes up through this tournament bracket, but got iced by Rakhmonov, like a disgustingly awesome knockout, big left hook, just finished him. Musayev just crushing Umulatov, like another dude that looks really incredible. He's another dude that, like, I feel like could just kind of show up to the UFC and probably do pretty freaking well. And Pukasanganai went out there and tried to have a brawl with Yagshimuradov and got caught in a brawl and got crushed. Yagshimuradov, small dude for light heavyweight, but he seems to be huge and powerful. And the whole main card was like, a ton of fights on this card, like an absolute. We had like amateur fights. It was like 16, 17 fights on this card, and it lasted all day. It started really early in the morning. It started at like 4 a.m. Pacific time, closed out by like 2 p.m. or something like that. Shout out to the desk for working that long. I don't love the PFL desk. They do pretty well, but shout out to those dudes for just being able to do a show for like 10, 12 hours or whatever the hell it was. Not just to mention, like, yeah, they're on air for like 11 hours or 10 hours, not like the whole, they're probably there for freaking 18, who knows. Pretty cool. Like, especially if it was free on ESPN Plus. If you haven't caught it back, go back and watch them. Like, you can just skip through all the ads and feeder BS that's in between the fights, but like each fight is like 5 minutes at the most, besides the main event, and the main event's a good 25-minute fight. You can watch that whole card in an hour. If you're just in fight time, probably less. Go back and check that out, and we're going to move on to UFC 310. That wraps up the first segment of the show. Out with the old. There's no middle segment. What's hot? Hopefully your turkey and all the food you had on Thanksgiving was nice and warm. We're going to shoot over to the final segment of the show, in with the new UFC 310. Pantoja versus Asakura, and this is like a good ass card. Like, reading through all of the fights, I'm like, ooh, I care about that one. Ooh, I really care about that one. Like, Brian Battles fighting Randy Brown, the odds on that fight is crazy. Unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about that one. Dominic Reyes taking on Anthony Smith, freaking Temba Garimbo and Vicente Luque. Like, the worst fight on this card is like the Weidman fight, in my opinion. But just tons of really cool fights, like Kron Gracie versus Bryce Mitchell in the Battle of the Flat Earth. That's a fight that should not be happening, but it's still a funny fight. Cody Durden and Joshua Van. Like, I'm not going to talk about that fight, but I'm probably going to recap it. That's like top tier fight on the card, on like dudes that are good at MMA, that have good ass fights. Like, yeah, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Garry. Someone's always got to go. Tons of cool shit. First fight we're going to talk about is a rematch. We have Ciryl Gane taking on Alexandre Volkov. Odds on this fight, Gane, coming in as a pretty heavy favorite. He did win their last fight. Minus 340 is the favorite. Volkov is coming in at plus 280. Man, shout out to Volkov for like being a dude that's like rebuilt his career. He's now 38, and he was like a young heavyweight for so long. But sorry, 36. But he's got like 50 MMA fights. He's had like 2 careers alone in the UFC. had a career at Bellator. And I mean, the only dudes like he's lost to in the UFC, like he lost to Derek Lewis, title challenger, Curtis Blades, title challenger, Ciryl Gane, interim UFC champion, Tom Aspinall, best heavyweight on the planet. Sorry, John Jones. His last loss was in 2022. That was to Tom Aspinall, where he lost via straight armbar. Since then, he knocked out Rosenstrike, where he looked really fucking good in that Rosenstrike fight. Like, go back and watch tape on that. He like walked him down and punished him. The Alexandre Rakhmonov fight crushed Rakhmonov in the first round, knocked him out. Tuivasa, that Ezekiel choke, like he hit him with a true heavyweight finish. And the last time out, he decisioned one of the most dangerous punchers we've seen at heavyweight. You know, he and Sergey Pavlovich, like that was a really great performance against Pavlovich. Had Pavlovich angry and frustrated with him. Ciryl Gane, he is a dude that much shorter career, but just like a true gifted athlete at heavyweight, which you don't see that a ton, like a dude that's athletic and quick, and can kind of be technical. He hasn't fought since September 2nd of 2023. So it's been over a year since he's fought. His last time out, he knocked out Pavlovich. Before that, he did lose to John Jones, you know, in a wash of a fight, like a fight where he like John Jones slipped one punch, took him down and just like choked him out instantly. Prior to that, he knocked out Tuivasa. And before that, he did lose a decision to Francis Ngannou. He was a guy that was fighting a ton, like, and then all of a sudden, like, he touched gold and kind of was like, I'm gonna go be a movie star, you know. Gane is a dude that is athletic enough to get on his bike and stick someone with a jab, but he's also a pretty fearless dude. He's got good power, really good speed, really good footwork. He's just a real athlete. Like, he's a dude that he shouldn't be an MMA fighter. And when I say that, he should be like in a different sport that pays him 3 times the amount of money, just because he's so freaking athletic. People claim he's the most technical heavyweight striker. I would argue that, because if you go look at any, like, he turns into Donkey Kong with any of his finishing sequences, and he's really known for a lot of shots behind the head. Like, if you go look at a lot of his finishes, you pause this and you go watch Ciryl Gane highlight finishes, and you're going to be like, damn, this dude Devin was on something with these back of the head shots. The second he hurt somebody, he's over swinging and then throwing back fists with the same hand. It's really weird. He's a technical striker until you're hurt in front of him, and then he's just like a stray cat in a dumpster. But he's so big and so powerful. He hits hard. He knows how to, you know, use his weight and his body weight and his momentum. I don't think the odds are a good representation of how close this fight could be, especially if Volkov comes to wrestle. This should be 5 rounds. It's not, though. If this was a 5-round fight, I'd probably favor Volkov a little bit more. Volkov's problem is what he just did to Pavlovich, Gane is going to try to do to him. He's just going to try to outslick and outspeed him. And Volkov's really tough and really durable, and I don't think Gane would finish him here. Volkov's going to probably try to wrestle in this fight. He has shown that he can be a wrestler, and his wrestling has gotten better, and he's also just put on body mass and gotten bigger. Like, as big as Ciryl Gane is, what's Gane? Let me pull his height. So Gane is 6'5", fucking huge, but Volkov's 6'7", and standing next to Gane, he's gonna probably look more like 6'8", 6'9". Like, he's a big fucking dude, and I think his last fight weight was like just around 260. So he may come in cutting weight for this fight. He may come in and try to wrestle. I think Volkov is a more well-rounded mixed martial artist than Ciryl Gane, but Ciryl Gane is a much faster and better athlete. But I think that Volkov is the dude that's taken his MMA career a lot more serious as of lately than Gane has. 50 fights versus 14. The win streak Volkov's on, his ability to, you know, take dudes like Tai Tuivasa down. Like, MMA math doesn't work, but go watch the freaking Tai Tuivasa fight and go watch the Ciryl Gane fight, and who took more damage? Volkov went out there and just fucking ran through Tuivasa, took him down, knew what he was supposed to do. I think he could take down Gane here. I'm gonna go with a flyer on Volkov. I think he's witty enough of a striker to use his striking to be able to get to some wrestling. And Gane's a bad wrestler. Like, dudes that wanted to take him down, and he doesn't have good fight IQ when you force him to grapple. Like, he will, jump for heel hooks. Yeah, it works against fucking Dante Almeida, not Francis Ngannou. The way he just got stuck and pinned against the cage and hit with that front headlock. Like, Jones has an incredible front headlock game, but like, the way he hit that front headlock on Gane, like a lot of other, the front headlock that Jones hit on Ciryl Gane is not the same one he hit on Lyoto Machida, like, at all. Like, it was the most heavyweight submission ever. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Volkov as a flyer here, and I don't think the odds are right. In a 3-round fight, Gane could literally just get on his bike and stick him with a jab and do it for 2 rounds. But I'm going to pick Volkov to get on the front foot, try to force him back, try to force him against the cage, fight him in the clinch. Volkov's good in the clinch, and he's also fearless. And I think he's a good enough puncher to make Gane respect him to take the back foot. And I'm going to say Volkov does some good old wrestling here. He is Russian. So let's see him use his Russian game plan and get some takedowns over the Frenchman. I'm going to go with a pretty big upset. Go with the flyer, Alexandre Volkov. And I like him better. Moving on to the co-main event. This was supposed to be the actually headline and the main event. Now, Alexandre Pantoja and Asakura have been elevated to the main event. It was supposed to be Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad got that weird toe infection issue. I mean, not weird. Looked like he had a bone infection. Cut on your toe, dirty mats, barefoot. Maybe, speaking of Ryzen, maybe that's why Manel Kopp always wore those wrestling shoes. Just saying. But yeah, Belal Muhammad had to pull out. And I'm glad they didn't make this for an interim, but shout out to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like, this dude is literally down to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. And he did not have to take this fight. He could have just said, I'll hold off. But no, he is facing Ian Machado Garry. So we have Shavkat the Nomad Rakhmonov facing Ian the Future Garry. Odds are Shavkat Rakhmonov is a pretty hefty favorite. Shit, I see him all the way up at -420. I see him down as low as -350. Ian Garry's coming at about +300, 280, +285 in a couple places. And yeah, interesting odds because both of these dudes are undefeated, and one of them has gotten a lot of hype and a lot of attention throughout their career. Well, both of them really have. It's a really good fight, man. Ian Garry, he's 15-0. Shavkat Rakhmonov, 18-0. Both of these dudes have shiny records. And Shavkat's record, I mean, he may not have the same big names as Ian Garry, but he's got some big names on there. But every single fight, not only, is a win, but all of them are finishes. He's finished every opponent, and his ability to find a finish and consistently look through a finish and never ride on a lead is something that just makes him fucking cool. His nickname is the Nomad. If you go and look on his social media, I mean, fucking, he comes from Kazakhstan, and the area he's from, is notorious for training like the golden eagles to like hunt for them and stuff. Like, he comes from a long line of, those type of people. Definitely just a true BMF. Like Shavkat Rakhmonov is that dude. And Ian Garry, a guy that has faced a lot of backlash in the media for carrying himself the way he does. That really doesn't have anything to do with his fighting skills or ability. You don't have to like people to understand that they're good at fighting. I never liked Israel Adesanya, but I mean, when he was carrying the middleweight belt, he was the middleweight champion. It is what it is. And for Ian Garry, you know, you might not like him. He might be annoying. You may have heard the stuff that he's got in his personal life going on, but that doesn't really impact his fighting at all. He's pretty fucking good himself. Both of these guys are riding undefeated win streaks. Last time out, Shavkat Rakhmonov took on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That was in December of 2023. So it's been about a year since he's fought. He won via rear naked choke in the second round. Prior to that, he kind of had that on Sherdog. We have it listed as a rear naked choke. It's kind of like a bulldog choke, you know, like a standing, no hooks in, just a bully ass choke over Jeff Neal. And if that was a fucking brawl. Prior to that, he finished Neil Magny with a guillotine. The Carlston Harris knockout with that spinning hook kick was really, really awesome. The Michel Prazeres, that submission, just his Shavkat Rakhmonov's submission ability on the ground. He's a really opportunistic grappler, and he's also not really scared to just stand in the pocket and meet any of his opponents. Ian Garry, last time out, he defeated Michael Page, MVP Michael Page, in a fight I kind of thought he lost. It was really, really close, and he got hit with like the bigger shots, but he went and leaned on his wrestling. Before that, he had that split decision against Jeff Neal, where it was a fight that I thought he won, but like real close, and Jeff Neal hit him with a lot of good shots. Before that, he did defeat Neil Magny. I think his best win, like best performance win, was against D-Rod in 2023, but D-Rod was old, and look what's happened to D-Rod since then. He's had fights where he wins, but he's facing adversity, like, you know, the Kanan Song fight, where if you remove the freaking big left hook he got almost knocked out with, he really started the style on Kanan Song. And even after he got dropped, he went back to the corner. He was like, yeah, I saw the shot that hit me, blah, blah, blah. And then he went out there and kind of just started putting the screws to him. Ian Garry, like many Irish MMA fighters, kind of have that like bladed McGregor stance, but he kind of fights more of like a featherweight McGregor, as much as you can definitely tell he's trying to emulate a lot of stuff like the pull counter. Ian Garry is a guy that's tall and long for the division, torso wise, but he doesn't have a really long reach. He tries to fight long, but again, he doesn't really have a long reach. So like when he goes to meet dudes in the pocket, you know, like someone he might have based. Wonder what he's gonna do about all the Conor McGregor stuff now that Conor McGregor has been found guilty in that civil case. That's neither here nor there. Maybe he'll change from the future to the now, because I whatever. That civil case is pretty daunting for Conor too. That ain't good for him. And based off the information and when I looked into it, I don't think it looks good for Conor at all. But I mean, this is a tangent, but like you can only have so many run-ins before it's like the bowl of spaghetti. Like something's going to stick if you throw it at the wall. And Conor's had way too many run-ins with allegations and things that get dropped and blah, 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 where something had to stick eventually. Anyway, back to this fight. Ian Garry is a dude that will try to outslick dudes in the pocket, but I think he's not as rangy as he really thinks he is. You know, look at the Jeff Neal fight where he was trying to be the slicker fighter and just kind of getting stung up in the pocket. Jeff Neal is low key a really good fighter, even though, you know, he does have those losses on his record. But he's got really good boxing, and he's got a good educated left hand. One of the better, you know, southpaw lefts in MMA. Jeff Neal has it. And what I mean by like a straight left, he throws it with no telegraph, and he lumped up. Jeff Neal has lumped up Shavkat and Ian Machado Garry in both of their fights. They both took a lot of damage from Jeff Neal, took a lot of shots from him, especially Shavkat. And there is moments in this fight where you could totally see Ian Garry, you know, potentially just being the slicker and faster dude. Shavkat is a dude that Shavkat's gonna get knocked out in his career. And if he was at like middleweight or 205, it would have probably already happened just based on dude's punching ability there and him being so reliant on his chin. And if he was like a bantamweight or a 55, if he was in any other division, he would have probably already been knocked out. You know, just go look at all the punchers at bantamweight or all the punchers at 55 or even the punchers at 85, you know, or up at like at 205. And he's just a Shavkat, for as many offensive weapons as he has, he is a dude that is a little bit slower on the feet. He kind of lacks head movement, and him leaving the pocket and engaging in the pocket, he'll kind of get squared up, and he is willing to go tit for tat with people. And eventually, like, you know, just going to use this as an example because this is a fight on this card. Like, watch the Dominic Reyes Jan Blachowicz fight. Dominic Reyes was coming off of a high. Dana White was like, he beat John Jones. He went out there and tried to meet Jan Blachowicz in the pocket and fucking died for it. And if there was, and Shavkat hasn't really fought a true puncher yet in the UFC. Like, his fight, if he fights someone like a Jack Della Maddalena has pretty decent grappling, but like, he's a good puncher in the pocket. Like, someone like that could give Shavkat Rakhmonov some problems. I don't think Ian Garry is the guy that is educated enough in the pocket. And Ian Garry's problem is in the pocket, he can be as equally defensively porous, and he seems more hurtable than Shavkat Rakhmonov. And a lot of the things that happen in the pocket with Shavkat also happen to Ian Machado Garry because he's kind of a short-armed puncher that tries to play a long striking game. Ian Machado Garry does have pretty good takedowns. The speed of MVP and the way MVP enters the pocket and lands one single shot is like no other, and Shavkat's not going to be able to replicate that. Ian Garry does have good kicks. He's a long-legged fighter. He's got good teep kicks, good body kicks, good head kicks, good leg kicks. Look at the way he set up D-Rod. I think he's going to use a lot of head kicks in this fight, probably against Shavkat. And he probably trusts his ability to scramble out. These guys have trained together down at Killcliff. Ian Garry is now full-time in Brazil, I believe, with Shooto Box, Charles Oliveira, and those boys. And Shavkat, I do believe he remained in Killcliff for this camp. Two well-schooled dudes. Both dudes are really young in their career. Shavkat's ability to get takedowns, be dominant in the grappling, and have such a diverse striking attack. You know, he can brawl with dudes in the pocket. He himself has a good kicking game. And we've seen him buzzed and hurt, but like, Ian Garry got hurt by one shot from Song Kenan or Kenan Song in their fight. Then I've seen Shavkat like in his whole UFC run. Like, Jordan Williams had success against Ian Garry, and he was much younger at the time, but I just don't think Ian Garry is going to be allotted to play his like tit for tat outside footwork game, where he may be a little like, in all of MMA, I think Shavkat is probably a better fighter just because he's much more of a finisher, and being a finisher in like as an MMA fighter is a really slept on important ass tool. Like, having the ability to finish every fucking person that steps across the octagon from you is rare. Being undefeated at this level is rare. Having all finishes, very fucking rare, especially at welterweight. Like, this dude's not a heavyweight. If he was an 18-0 heavyweight, you'd be like, okay, with all finishes, he's knocked out everybody, or what, you know, knocked out 10 dudes and sub two, whatever. But yeah, just being a finisher, you know, and Steve Garcia, he's got the longest finish streak active in the UFC right now. UFC, Shavkat's over his whole career, but in UFC, and he recently said something in a post fight that said, I just realized that the best way for me to win these fights is to finish them. Not wrong. And Shavkat can go through a brawl like he did with Jeff Neal and not win every exchange, but still find a way to finish that fight. Not many dudes would have found a way to finish that fight. People might have won the decision against Jeff Neal in that fight, but like not many dudes are going to be like, oh, we're in a perfect position for like a standing rear naked choke, modified bulldog choke, whatever you want to call it, to just fucking squeeze Jeff Neal's head off. And he's just such a marauder. He's not going to quit. And the only way to make him quit is to separate him from his consciousness. Like he's a dude that's going to meet Ian Garry in the pocket every time. If someone takes a forward step, it's going to be him. If someone takes a backward step, it's probably going to be Ian Garry. Ian Garry's game plan, and in my opinion, the way Ian Garry has to win this fight is he can't just go meet Shavkat Rakhmonov in the pocket over and over and over again. He's going to have to take the back foot. He's going to have to use his footwork. He's going to have to stay on the outside. What does that mean? Well, that means that you're going to also allow him to move forward. I think he's just going to land more volume, push Ian Garry up against the cage. It's 5 rounds. I mean, Shavkat Rakhmonov has finished every fight he's been in. You have to get into a cage with Shavkat Rakhmonov for 25 minutes. The data shows you're getting finished. He's a huge favorite, and I think the odds are a little bit crazy, but I've got to go with the Nomad. I've got to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov. I do think even though I kind of seen equal flaws in both of their games, I do think both of them are imperfect fighters, but it's MMA. You're never going to find a perfect fighter. I have seen flaws in both of their games, but I think even though they can both exploit them, I just have to bet on the dude that's finished 18 fights in a row. Like if Song Kenan had that same moment, or if Shavkat Rakhmonov has that same moment that Song Kenan had, fuck, who's to say that he doesn't just capitalize and go squeeze his head off? I'm gonna go with Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's gonna get like dropped or hurt in this fight because it is 5 rounds. He's going to get stung with something because Ian Garry can be pretty crafty and he is a pretty tricky fighter himself. And shout out to Ian Garry for being like, hey, F you. I stepped up and fought the scariest dude in the division. Like, I'm taking the fight that the champ was about to take. And that speaks volumes. Like, if this dude wins this fight, all of the, stuff about him that I won't even speak on because it's not my fucking business, all of that just gets kind of swept under the rug. Because he just beat Shavkat Rakhmonov. And you know what? As annoying as he may be on the mic after, if he beats Shavkat Rakhmonov, let alone fucking goes out there and finishes him, holy shit. We definitely have to give him a soapbox to stand on. But my pick is Shavkat Rakhmonov by 4th round finish. I think he's going to hurt him with something and just probably finish him with like a rear naked choke. Moving on to this is the main event. I was about to say co-main event. I apologize. Moving on to the main event. We have Alexandre Pantoja taking on Kai Asakura. Odds on this fight. Sorry. I have too many tabs open. Feel like an old person. Odds on this fight. Pantoja is a -270 favorite. Kai Asakura is coming back at +220 as the dog. This is Kai Asakura's first fight in the UFC, first fight at flyweight in a long fucking time because in Ryzen, all of his fights have taken place at $135. But here we go. Pretty cool fight. Shout out to Pantoja because like he could have and probably should have been like, F you guys, give me one of the Brandons to fight or whatever. Yeah, this fight is not a fight that he really needs to be taking. But shout out to him for taking it. Kai Asakura is kind of like a slept on OG in the game, like especially like international MMA, like in Japan. The dude's been catching bodies for a hot minute. Like You know, in 2019, he knocked out Manel Kape. That's how he got the belt, like originally. He's knocked out Kyoji Horiguchi. Like, dude's got pretty freaking good wins. And when I said he got knocked out by Manel Kape, I actually misspoke. Manel Kape knocked him out, and that's how Manel Kape took the belt. Funny that Manel Kape comes to the UFC and like doesn't get the same treatment as Kai Asakura, but Kai Asakura, he's kind of a big star out there. Last time out, he defeated Juan Archuleta with a knee to the body, a kind of really nice step-in knee straight to the sternum. If you go on ESPN or Sports Center or on social media, you're going to see like tons of incredible highlight knockouts from Kai Asakura. He's got big power. He's big for this division. Big power. You know, he's broken opponent's jaw. Really good step in knees with him. His ability to close the distance is impeccable. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like fighting for him in a cage and how he does with cage wrestling, because one of his issues, I mean, even in the Juan Archuleta fight, like he was able to kind of get some takedowns against him. Even though Archuleta got knocked out and finished to the body, like Archuleta literally dropped him in this fight as well. Like in a break after a wrestling exchange, after a takedown was defended by Horiguchi, Archuleta kind of hit him with a big cross right as they were exiting the pocket, disengaging a scramble, and kind of bopped him and set him down on his butt. He's not bulletproof at all. Pantoja, if you're listening to this show, you guys know who the fuck Pantoja is. True OG of men's flyweight, like creeping up to be one of the greatest of all time in this division. Like he's really getting close. He's not getting close to DJ, but like there's an argument that he's number 2. He's fought everybody. He's fought everybody twice. He's fought everybody 3 times. He's beat them every time. It's funny because like I went back and watched the Davison Figueiredo fight from 5 years ago in 2019, and like Figgy did fucking. It's a shame that Figgy is just like old, and we kind of didn't get him when he was 25. Like, it's a shame we got Figgy when he was like 30 something, like at flyweight. And now he's like fighting really cool fights with Petrion. But like, he was fucking up. Like, he rocked Pantoja with uppercuts. And I could totally see like Pantoja, he fights like a dude that knows he's got a really great chin. He's never been knocked out, never been finished. He's been buzzed by Davison Figueiredo, probably the hardest puncher in men's flyweight history. Like the dude, Davison Figueiredo has like more knockdowns per fight or whatever per minute than like Francis Ngannou. Like, it's ridiculous. Figgy drops like every single person he fights. Like, he was the first dude to drop Chito Vera. Like he just dropping Petri. Like, he drops everybody. He hurts everybody. Look how many times he dropped Moreno in their fights. So to get dropped by him is nothing, but to not get finished by him it says something for Pantoja. Pantoja is a mean scrambler, good grappling game, fearless striker. He's a good striker for MMA standards, but he's not defensively responsible. He is willing to bite down and meet people in the pocket and brawl with them. Like, even in his fight with Matt Schnell, like, he rocked Matt Schnell, but like, he was getting touched by Matt Schnell too. And Kai Asakura could be the first dude to knock Pantoja right the F out. He's got a good uppercut. He comes out like a bolt of lightning. Kai Asakura, this round 1 of this fight is going to be crazy. And don't be surprised if Kai Asakura comes out and like hits Pantoja with this like crazy jump knee or some, this could look like the second version of like Jorge Masvidal and Ben Askren, where like Kai Asakura just comes flying like a fucking bat out of hell and just ices Pantoja with something crazy. But like, you start really looking into Kai Asakura's tape, and like, he's a violent striker, violent finisher, but like, he's also pretty defensively porous with his grappling. Like, he's not a good wrestler. And yeah, he knocked out Horiguchi, but he also got fucking dominated by Horiguchi in their other fight. My concern for Kai Asakura here is like him never cutting to 125. Like, has he done test cuts? He's big for this division. How's he going to look? We know Pantoja has incredible cardio. My concerns for Pantoja is like, he's secretly doing the same thing Alex Pereira is, as far as just like playing fucking speed chess through the division. Like, give me fights, line him up, knock him down. Give me fights, line him up, knock him down. It's just that, he's not out there. He doesn't have the same aura. I hate myself for using that word as a adult male in my 30s, and I won't do it again. But that's how you youngins understand this shit. He definitely doesn't have the same like vibe as Alex Pereira, but like he's doing the same thing. He's fucking playing speed chess with this whole division. Like he's line him up, knock him down, line him up, knock him down, and he's a big favorite here, and he's getting older himself, and he's taking a lot of lumps. And if someone's gonna just knock him dead because he is defensively irresponsible, it's gonna be a dude like Kai Asakura or maybe Kai Kara-France, one of the Kais, a dude that's just a big puncher. And I'd give better chances to Kai Kara-France in a fight against Pantoja than Asakura. Curious to see what this fight looks like in a cage too. Like Kai Asakura has not really had to deal with like any cage grappling, and like Pantoja is such. I mean, outside of everything, Pantoja's got an incredible fucking motor and an incredible back take game. He's one of the, like him and another guy on this card, Aljamain Sterling, who's unfortunately like buried under the prelims. I kind of understand why, because he seems to have a lot of headbutting issues with the UFC, and his fights are not the most fun. Like his Calvin Kattar fight last time out was bad. Yeah, like he's a back taker like Aljo. Like these dudes, they'll fucking. I talked about back takes earlier on the show. Like Pantoja is a dude that like if he gets back control and gets a body triangle on you, 10-9 round Pantoja at a minimum if you're not getting finished. He's got a good rear naked choke game. His ability to get to the back, find the back, and be fearless in the pocket and walk forward. Asakura's game plan on this is probably going to be like counter jump knees, because Pantoja will shell up and will freeze in the pocket and will, kind of brawl with dudes in the pocket and watch his work and sit there stagnant with his head right on the center line. But I'm going to go with Pantoja. Kai Asakura does have a striking advantage and a power advantage, but the difference in, the difference in the advantage that Pantoja has with his grappling over Asakura is much greater than Asakura, his striking versus Pantoja striking. I feel like I articulated that really freaking poorly, but I think you get it. So I'm going to go with Pantoja. I just think he's going to Tasmanian devil his way into this win. Like he's just such a rabid fighter. But like he knows what he's good at and he knows what he needs to do to win. I think he is going to meet Asakura in the pocket fearlessly, hopefully not get caught slipping, and be able to just push him against the cage. And I think the cage wrestling is going to be a huge factor in this fight. And I haven't really listened to any breakdowns or any analysis, but don't be surprised if you listen to other, analysts and they bring up the cage wrestling, because Pantoja is a good fucking grappler and a good fucking wrestler. He's like a Brazilian BJJ guy that like has good wrestling, and he's a flyweight. Like he has good tech with his wrestling and the cage. Like we've seen Pantoja push dudes against the cage and take their back. So why isn't he going to do that to Asakura? Give me Pantoja to win a decision where he probably gets hurt, like in the first or second round. But he's just a dog. No one's ever knocked this dude out, and I'm not picking Kai Asakura to come over from Rise and with no UFC fights, never cut to 125. It's just a lot. It's a lot for Asakura outside of the win itself. He's facing a lot of adversity, just, first fight in the organization, blah, 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 blah. But we'll see if the UFC did the right thing by putting all this, hype behind Asakura. Maybe he is the one to, dethrone the kind of long reigning champion Pantoja now. But I'm going Pantoja to retain. That's the show, guys. I appreciate all of you for tuning in, and enjoy the fights.